In a small room, a border of masking tape, a demarcation down the middle, the litter of a temporary sleeping space, a mattress, a desk, a TV, a lamp, a rucksack. Stretched out, a body, blue torso and yellow legs, bandaged in combat trousers and vest, desert boots, and a crown. He sleeps, the head resting easy, until alarm clock gunfire and an explosive sunrise scramble him awake. Good morning, tramper. Here's a loud hailer with your wake-up warning. You have 1 hour to leave before we invade your country. You have 1 hour to leave before we invade your country. Leave everything. Take nothing. You have 1 hour to leave before we invade your country. Stop. Tense, nervous fingers fidget around, feeling the crown. Remembering, confirming it is his. Sealed and not suited. Now cuticles on the end of pipe cleaners work their way up a little more to find the clunk of a metallic open-top hatband. It is not a dream. One. You polish it every night. 1.1. No, not that. 1.2. The crown. 1.2.1. Every night. 2. It's the only way. 2.1. A bit of spit and whatever is to hand. Sometimes just your hand. 2.1.1. What you are wearing. 2.2. It seems to do the trick. 3. Even at the end, you must maintain appearances, the trappings of office. 3.1. Otherwise, what do you have left? 3.2. Yes, it is only symbolic. 3.2.1. Yes, you are only symbolic. 3.3. But it is what is left, what you have left. 3.4. And they're not taking that away. Not now. 3.5. Not yet. 4. You didn't think it would end like this. 4.1. But then, no one ever does. 4.1.1. Divine rights and inviolate. 4.2. You get used to being told the position you hold is immortal. 5. By sleight of mind, you come to believe the same. 5.1. That you are immortal. 5.2. Because position and person are one and the same. 5.2.1. As vested in you, represented by you. 6. So they cannot ever touch you, no matter the screw-ups you make. 6.1. Because they are not mistakes. 6.2. They are a happy, whimsical... I'll start that again. 6.2. They are whimsical unpredictabilities with a happy effect, keeping consort and court, mistresses and subjects on their toes. 6.3. It is not that you are never wrong. Who possesses the temerity or sheer bad manners to whisper that to you? 6.3.1. To your face. 6.4. No matter the pattern of choices, some sort of internal coherency can always be found. 6.5. A chain of logic that is clear and followable. 6.5.1. Even if followable isn't a word. 6.6. Even if it is irrational to the outside eye. 6.7. Even if it is irrational. 6.8. Because what does the outside eye know? 6.9. Blinded by the gilded edges of the caravan. 6.10. Always confusing the trappings for substance. 7. Not that the trappings are not substantial. 7.1. Or not necessary. 7.1.1. They are a feint, a distraction. 7.1.2. Be dazzled enough by the shiny shiny, You won't ask why everything is only being held by a few pieces of tape and string. 7.2. Though someone comes along one day and says, 7.2.1, look, I can see some rust. 8. And then it is all over. 9. Not immediately. 10. You keep the motions of pretense up. 10.1. Blinding the rust spotters, the string cutters, the tape slicers. 10.2. Silencing those who say the rust spotters, the string cutters, the tape slicers should have their say and keep saying it. 10.3. Imprisoning those who say the advice is not bad and should be listened to. 10.4. Sending into exile those who suggest you need new advisors. 10.4.1. Advisors who should sound like the people suggesting you need new advisors. 11. Dismissing and diminishing until the only evidence you are actually who you say you are is a piece of tarnished metal. 12. And your unshakable belief in the purity of your bloodline. 12.1. However diluted that might be. 13. By then, no doubt, the wars have started. 13.1. Because you have given enough hostages to fortune, caused enough noses to be broken out of joint. 13.1.1. Made sure enough interests are not vested. 13.2. Sure, it is dressed up as something patriotic, noble, for country and crown. 13.2.1. Whatever that is. 13.3. A naked attempt to try and preserve something nebulous. 13.4. The moment you cannot guarantee status for you and all your people, you are done. 13.4.1. You. 13.4.2. Are. 13.4.3. Done. 13.5. And you have made sure you cannot. 13.6. Because you cannot take a decision without pissing someone off. 14. A grudge. Always against you. 14.1. A grudge with easy access to a cache of weapons. 14.1.1. Better than yours. 14.2. The clack you are relying on for your guns and bodies are now those in front of you. 14.2.1. Surrounding you. 15. You are a king until someone points a gun at you. 15.1. Majesty disappears like June in the morning when confronted with an AK-47. 16. It is not that you set out to become one. This. 16.1. Become this. 16.2. It just happened. 16.3. And you are most comfortable being it, wearing these clothes. 16.4. Who hasn't put on a toy crown and wished it real? 17. You tried being different types of leader. 17.1. A director, then a managing one. 17.2. You got the corporate vogue. 17.3. Chief Executive Officer. 17.4. Thrusting, heft, modern. 17.4.1. Big. 17.4.2. Big initials. 17.4.2.1. Big balls. 18. Are you tired of fronting a corporation? You grandeur more than that. 18.1. So a first minister, then a prime minister. 18.1.1. Primus inter pares. 18.2. Even a president for a bit. Why not? 18.3. You aren't wedded to any idea of how you should rule. 18.3.1. Just that you should. 19. It could have been through other means. Other people. 19.1. As long as you were the other person who mattered more, mattered most. 19.2. Who lied to themselves better than anyone else. 20. You should have gone for a cult of personality. 20.1. Some extreme narcissism to go with your incipient megalomania. 20.2. But you don't look good in bronze or stone. 20.2.1. No profile for statuary. 20.2.1.1. Do not have the cheekbones. 21. It was never actually about the spoils. 21.1. How can it be when you start your own country from scratch? 21.1.1. Your own imagined country. 21.2. No ill-gotten loot that needs laundering. 21.3. Or independent means that needed frittering. 21.3.1. No pissing off mummy or the trustees. 22. There's not much money in this business, not outside the key markets. 22.1. The ones with lots of loyal subjects who look at you with adoring eyes whenever you pass them in the street, all stretched out in your national champion limo. 22.1.1. You could never commit such a faux pas as to be driven round in your real ride because it comes from Wolfsburg or Turin or Mumbai. 22.1.2. Not where you are. 22.1.2.1. Where these goofs live, the credulous live. 22.1.3. These places where they are happy to be subjects. 22.1.3.1. And they don't have the wit to realise that it means to be subjugated too. 23. You do not get into the kingship racket to make a fast buck. 23.1. There are better ways to make some money. 23.1.1. Or a living. 23.1.1.1. Or to stay alive. 24. This one gave you a lot of freedom. 24.1. At the expense of other people. 24.1.1. Sorry, subjects. 24.1.2. Maybe. 24.2. It was well past time you took a bit of freedom. 24.2.1 for you. 24.3. Because if you didn't, 24.3.1, no one else would do it for you. How much was this crown? 25. How much was this crown? 25.1. This proof and reproof of your status. 25.2. It is not a question you thought you might ask when you were at school. 25.3. What happens when you need to buy a crown? 25.3.1. And you do not mean a tiara. 25.3.1.1. You're not on your hen night. 25.3.1.2. Much as you might wish you were. 25.4. You mean a proper fuck off, I'm a king crown. 25.4.1. John Lewis don't stock them. 25.4.1.1. Not even Peter Jones. 25.4.1.2. The last piece of evidence the shops were founded by a Marxist. 25.4.1.3. My apologies, sir. We've never had a royal headwear department. 26. Why go where every other monarch has gone before you? 27. Elizabeth Duke. 27.1. As your royal jewellers by warrant. 27.1.1. It wasn't your first choice. 28. A crown helicoptered in specially. 28.1. Now the only thing you'll be able to take with you. 28.2. The last relic of your reign. 28.4. Not many monarchies will leave a lighter footprint than yours. 29. You would love to stuff your pockets with jewels and doubloons, wine and old masters, and furs and silks. Whatever you are meant to do to claim as yours when the curtain's coming down. A hogshead or two, but no. 30. All you have left is a cheap shit 9.99 crown from Argos. 30.1. And a little blue pen. 30.1.1. Order number SJ33. Please come to the collection point. 31. You consider whether the audience might be forgiven for being confused. 31.1. He's brown. Brown people can't be king. 31.1.2. Can they? 31.2. Maybe where they come from, they can be kings there? They come from places that still have kings, don't they? 31.2.1. All the glitzy turbans in the Raj, they were princes or maharajas anyway. 31.2.2. Oh, but wasn't Victoria the Empress, so she outranked them all. 31.2.3. But didn't we give them our democracy and shit, so there wouldn't be any more kings? 31.2.4. So what's he doing here with a crown on his head, pretending to be one? 32. Good question. 33. You are not sure how you got here either. 33.1. But before you tell that story, you should say where here is. 33.1.1. For all you live action battlefield tourists. 34. What you see, that's just the appearance. What something looks like, not the truth. 34.1. Your eyes don't tell you what's true. 34.2. Remember, it's the lie of the land. 34.2.1. You find the real story under the contours of the map. 35. A map unrolled from the heavens, swamping you in topography. 36. So before the fighting started, 36.1, entirely predictably, by the way, 36.1.1, two overproud and underclever populations rubbing each other the wrong way for 3/4 of a millennium. 36.2, this little old hamlet where I'm now reigning had been a governmental nightmare. 36.2.1, a continental oddity. 36.2.1.1, an administrative anomaly. 36.2.1.2, a legalistic fuck up. 37, it's hard to see why. It's hard to see much here. 37.1, some squares that mean something to someone. 37.1.1, a few coloured lines making a collection of villages. 37.2, or maybe a power play. 37.3, an aborted archipelago that forgot where the sea was. 37.4, the dangers of irrational geography. 38, what do you see here? 38.1, the future history of humanity. 38.2, one endless individual bun fight. 39, it was. A town where two countries intertwined. 39.1, not met, but mixed. 39.2, one house was in one country. 39.2.1, the neighbours in another. 39.3, no joke. 39.4, one door, crazy land. 39.4.1, next door, Balmylandia. 39.4.1, not that I can call them that anymore. 39.4.1.2, because somebody will shoot me. 39.4.1.3, for being an insult of a neighbour. 39.4.2, and yes, in some of the houses, a border right through the bathroom too. 40. 3,000 people living as two. 41, or they were. 41.1, with double of everything. 41.2, many secretaries of foreign tongues. 41.3, two traditions, both heartfelt, both ridiculous. 41.4, two churches, two schools. 41.5. 2 town halls for parading past. 41.6. 2 sets of lights, road signs, post boxes. 41.7. Electrics, telephone systems, even double drains. 41.7.1. Twin natural monopoly fund. 41.8. 2 lots of media, because a uniform babble wasn't enough. 42. Each side its own newspaper too. 42.1. Each used to be content to stir the pots. 42.1.1. To keep things a little spicy, entertaining. 42.2. But that was before prevailing economic imperatives meant that things had to get hotter. 42.3. War sells papers, they thought. 42.3.1. They weren't wrong about that. Pity it wasn't a long-term redoubt. 43. Like they've been planning it. 2 sets of policemen became 2 armies. 43.1. Small army, sure. 43.2. But when you've got a grenade without a pin at your feet, who's counting the infantry wandering past? 44. Everyone pasted their particular allegiance on their front door. 44.1. The good citizens, the loyal citizens, patriotic citizens. 44.2. So it wasn't hard for the opposing team to find them. 44.2.1. Deal with them. 45. A gap in the crack of history. 46. No one steamrolled these little parcels of land, these little statelets into one empire's pancake. 46.1. If you wait long enough, they'll do it themselves. 46.2. Can't tear each other apart fast enough. 47. That's friction for you. 47.1. Enough of it, the conflagration inevitable. 47.2. Sparks everywhere you look. 48. Everything central, but peripheral, all at the same time. 49. The memories too. 50. People tried to die on the right side of the line. 50.1. They did not want to ascend to the wrong heaven. 50.2. Corpses dragged through the streets over the different paving stones, so they had done their duty by their patry. 50.2.1. That their God knew that they had been true. 51. Why tip up in a war zone? 51.1. You are no adrenaline junkie. 51.2. You do not want to shed any red stuff. 51.2.1. It is not your fight. 51.3. But you spot a chance like the next man. 51.4. Localized carnage is some of the best opportunity hunting you can get. 52. You can slip between the cracks unnoticed. 52.1. Until you want to be noticed. 52.2. What is one small brown face? 52.3. Exactly. 53. So you have come to this discrepancy. 53.1. To start something here. 53.2. Another discrepancy. 54. A country fit for you. 55. You had the idea on the train. 56. Yes, you know you should have arrived in a manner more romantic, befitting your soon-to-be really true this time status as an outcast. 56.1. A romantic in exile, a successful runner-awayer. 56.2. From all the stuff that was so bad, you couldn't stay and fix it. 57. It'd suit you and your story more if you'd used a mode of transport more exotic. 57.1. A tramp steamer. 57.1.1. Something to weather beat you. 57.2. Shay had his motorcycle trip. where heroes were found, destinies forged, myths made. 57.3. You? You had the Eurostar. 57.3.1. Your heroism stretching as far as trying to sneak champagne from first class. 57.3.2. Stuck in the tunnel for hours due to the inclement conditions at Calais. 57.3.2.1. The conditions are always inclement at Calais. 57.3.3. One couple so bored they started the Mile Below Club. 57.3.3.1. You didn't have that distraction available to you. Maybe if you had more regularly. Okay, at all. Growing up, maybe you might be calmer than you are now. 58. With nothing else to do but look out at the wall holding back the sea, you drifted. 58.1. You drifted to being younger. 58.1.1. Bank holidays at home, the rain, the inside, the couch, in front of the TV. 58.1.1.1. Hoping that instead of the Bond, whatever was left over in Disney's cupboard, there would actually be something else on. 58.1.1.2. Something interesting. Something different. 58.2. And this one time, there was. 59. A bang on the TV. A splutter into life. And then on it, 59.1. The man who would be king. 60. For it's a nation I shall make of 'em, with a flag and an anthem and a standing army. I'll treat with the viceroy on equal terms, and other kings and princes. And when I've accomplished what I set out to do, I'll stand one day before the Queen, not kneel, mind you, but stand like an equal. And she'll say, I'd like you to accept the Order of the Garter as a mark of my esteem, cousin. And she'll pin it on me herself. Oh, it's big. It's big, I tell you. 61. A jolly in the subcontinent. 61.1. When the subcontinent was ours. 61.2. No, theirs. 61.2.1. To be jollied. 62. Two mad dog Englishmen, short on high Victorian imperial boredom, long on chutzpah and capers. 62.1. Smuggle some guns into some country. 62.1.1. The Kafiristan job. 62.2. Then some cunning, some chance, some shooting. 62.3. And one of them ends up running the show. 62.4. The locals reckon he's the son, and they all start bowing down to him. 62.4.1. Just like that. 63. And you thought, wouldn't that be bloody cool? Well, not just to be Sean Connery. That obviously would be bloody cool. But, you know, it'd also be cool to just control somewhere. Especially somewhere when you've felt that you've never fitted in wherever the where is you're from. And then have loads of people suddenly decide that, yes, despite the fact that you look different, sound different, talk different, and scare them with your guns and what have you, still, you're a better bet than the current fat nabob they have, who goes around taking their bread from them, their grain from them, their money from them, taking their wives and daughters from them whenever he fancies. With only a little bit of prompting and cajoling, a twinkling smile or two, which they understand even if they don't understand what the smile is saying. They take that and the guns and the weapons and the drill and the tactics and the confidence you've given them, and they surround the Fat Nabob's palace in a ring of chanting, heaving, determined bodies, which won't shift, and if he tried to sneak through, he'd get sucked into a maw of flesh like being sucked into a whirlpool. So the Nabob's got no other choice but to give in and throw his hands up, throw his crown up, his queen up, and when he looks round at who to give them to, so he isn't torn into pieces the size of stamps with his fat head, on them, and the crowd are growling and shuffling and getting ready to start pitching sharp things at him. It's only when he looks at you with the crown in one hand, an imploring gesture being made by the other, and his eyes are watery and pleading and hopeful and hopeless and scared, and the crowd suddenly hush as they see where he's looking, and you suddenly feel your arm lifting and your hand reaching out, and you gently trace the band of the crown once round to make sure it is real, and then you close the hold of your hand around it and you snatch it with a jerk. And you look at it in the same way you looked at her when she slowly undressed that night in your room. And then before anyone can do anything, take anything away, you put the crown on your head, pretending you're not being reverential, but you are a bit. Trying to be that cocky and cool person that all the people down there have been inspired by and should now be slightly scared of. And then this moment of pure, utter silence, like you get at 4 a.m. when everything is still or dead, and then you're almost blown back by this gust of noise, this rush of love and fear and hope and expectations and dreams, all in this one blast, this one expansion of emotion. 64. Yeah, that'd be cool. 64.1. Yeah, that'd be fucking cool. 65. And you remembered that on the train. 65.1. That feeling of fucking coolness. 65.2. And you remembered you'd wanted some of that then. 65.2.1. And then it hit you with the force of what would be a biblical revelation. 65.2.1.1, if you believed in biblical revelations. 65.2.2, that you still did. You really did. And that you shouldn't have let yourself slip away from that dream. 65.2.2.1. Or was it that you didn't work hard enough to do what you needed to do to make sure you got there? 65.3. But this time, this now, it wasn't hazy at all. 65.4. And what was clearer than anything else was the notion that you had been right. 65.5. That you should have tried to get some of that action, and now was the time to change that. 65.5.1. And get into the monarchy racket. 66. You decided you would become a king. 67. Now what? 68. It's one thing to think it. 68.1. To say it to yourself. 68.2. Then maybe a whisper. 68.2.1. Under your breath. 68.3. Then quietly. 68.4. Then louder. 68.5. Then louder. 68.6. Then louder still. 68.7. Then louder again. 68.8, louder and louder and louder. 68.9, until it echoes down the carriage. 68.10, until it ricochets out into the sea. 69, I will be a king. 70, but how'd you do it? 70.1, you've not been born into it, so you cannot inherit a gig. 70.2, you don't see the job advertised either. 17.2.1, one throne, plenty of other owners, now needs filling. It could be you. 70.3, can you imagine a Job Centre Plus? 70.4, have you applied for any jobs this week? Yeah. What sort of jobs? King ones. What do you mean? You know, jobs where you can be a king. I didn't know we actually had any of those. No, not that many. I've been keeping my eyes open and everything. Have you tried working at the warehouse? What does a warehouse want with a king? 71. And so the welfare state crumbles a little more. 72. No, if you are going to be a king, you can't sit around. 72.1, waiting. 72.1.1, for a kingdom to open up for you. 73, you are going to have to do it yourself. 73.1, which means one of two things. 74, invasion. 74.1, or starting your own country. 75, And after years of waiting, your dumb luck turned. 75.1. So you could do one, 75.2, vicariously experience the other. 76. Not that you had anything to do with it kicking off, wherever you are. 76.1. And now you just shrug at the gunfire. 77. You didn't know this place existed. 77.1. You got off the train, no idea of what to do next. 77.2. Just jumped into a taxi, asked to go somewhere interesting. 77.2.1. You went close by. 77.2.2. Trust you to get the cab driver with an unused PhD in international relations. 77.2.3. Rehearsing his viva. A sudden persistent beeping. A mobile phone. The screen glows news. You have less than 1 hour to leave before we invade your country. You have less than 1 hour to leave before we invade your country. Leave everything. Take nothing. Stop. 78. Just a text. 78.1. A text. 78.2. Are you not enough of a king to be sent more than an SMS? 78.2.1. Where are the men with the sashes and halberds? Why haven't they rushed to you yet? You are just an irritant to them, a deluded goof, unrespected. 78.2.1.1. Too busy fighting each other or obeying the rules of war. Some heartening proprieties remain. 79. Oh yes, where were you? 79.1. In the taxi. 79.1.1. It was not a short journey. 79.1.2. Cabby's interesting was not quite yours. 79.2. You have never had a burning desire to tip up in a war zone. 79.2.1. And you should have asked how much. 79.2.1.1. No tip after tipping up. 80. And then here you were. 81. And now here you still are. 82. You are not a violent person. 82.1. You never did go looking for aggravation, any excuse for a rock. 82.2. You shrink from fists. 82.3. Fighting does not make you a man. 82.3.1. It makes less of you by having the tendency of killing you. 82.3.2. There cannot be any less of you than that. 83. So the obvious thing would be to turn tail. 83.1. Double back and be done with it. 83.1.1. Stick out a thumb. Scramble into a van. 83.1.2. Trudge away. 83.1.3. Whatever, to get the hell out of here and have anecdotes to tell about how you survived combat operation. 83.1.3.1. They don't need to know how long for. 84. But then you begin thinking you might be being over hasty. 84.1. Sure, it was not your first choice. 84.1.1. But there have to be some opportunities. 84.2. A war doesn't just need the mindlessly brave. 84.2.1. It wants the cunningly cowardly too. 84.2.2. A role you were overqualified for. 85. A crisis should never be wasted, as the wisdom has it. 85.1. Even if it has nothing to do with you. 85.2. One intervention always leads to another. 85.3. So the question became, what can you do now that you are here? 86. It hit you. You remembered. 87. Your idea. You can have it here. 87.1. Your little project. Your big plan. 87.2. Your little statelet. Your big society. 87.3. Your kingdom. Your world. 88. It's not as easy as you think. 88.1. Starting one of these. 88.2. Whatever one of these is. 88.2.1, a country, a canton, a Bantustan. 89. You did not have a clue. Why would you? Why would anyone have a clue? 89.2. Most people are happy where they are. 89.2.1. With what they are born into. 89.3. The way things are set up. 89.3.1. That's how most people want to keep things. 90. Well, most of the people with any form of power at any rate. 91. Of course, they, the people with any form of power, don't follow their own logic. 91.1. Separate people out, make them atomized. 91.1.1. Keep telling everyone that they're unique. 91.1.1.1. An individual. 91.1.2. That they matter, truly matter, more than nearly anyone else. 91.1.2.1. Except a few blood ties, and maybe the other name on a marriage certificate. And that is it. 92. Now, why would you then be surprised if some of the 92.1, how shall you say, 92.1.1, more impressionable amongst you? 92.2 might believe it. 92.2.1, start to embroider it. 92.2.2, start to make that tale, that narrative. 92.2.3, a little more dramatic. 92.2.3.1, and take it to the obvious conclusion. 93. That every man, every woman should be their own island. 93.1. Yes, John Donne, you heard. 94. Every man, every woman should be their own island. 94.1. Their own tax haven. 94.2. Don't like the laws you happen to have been born under? 94.2.1. Find some more amenable ones. 94.2.2. And what can be more amenable than rules that you have made up for yourself, for you to obey, in a manner of your choosing? 94.2.2.1. This one, sure. This one, not so much. 94.2.2.1.1. Better change that one. 94.2.2.2. The only person you are answerable to is you. 95. Any decent manual for starting up your own country. 95.1 isn't all that straightforward to come by. 95.2. Obviously, you should have done some research before you left. 95.3. But you've never been that sort of traveller. 95.3.1. Turn up, wing it, see what you see, 95.3.2. Alas, that's only going to get you so far. 95.3.2.1. Need to be a bit more robust. 96. Which meant 96.1, apart from learning how to duck all the incoming. 96.2. Seeing if you could get your hands on a how-to guide, a dummies book. 96.3. Again, your luck was in. 96.3.1. Apparently these fighters are sensitive, literate types. 96.3.2. The bookshop had not been touched. A rummage inside. A rummage inside the rucksack. A book he's almost in love with. 97. That was enough to get you started. 98. That there actually was a how-to guide. 98.1. Well, not actually a how-to guide. 98.2. But someone had bothered to go round, document all the attempts people had made at cocking a snook at the existing nations. 98.3. And thereby discovered the things you need officially to be a country. 98.3.1. You quote directly from the book. 98.3.2. According to the 1933 Montevideo Convention on the Rights and Duties of States, a nation needs only 4 things to exist. 98.3.2.1. A permanent population. 98.3.2.2. a defined territory. 98.3.2.3, a government. 98.3.2.4, and the capacity to enter into relationships with other states. 99. It had a bit of advice from Frank Zappa too. 99.1. He reckoned that all your country really needs is 99.1.1, beer. 99.1.2, an airline. 99.1.3, some nuclear weapons. 99.1.4, and a football team. 99.1.4.1, the beer's the most important. 100. Here is the really crazy thing. You don't need to be recognized, 100.1, by anyone else, any other country. 100.2. Oh, sure, all the other nations, whatever, ignore you. 100.2.1, but fuck them. 100.3, you can say it, and it is true. 101. I am a country.